So I will not go too much into what I have done. I will tell you more about what I have learned because I've done many things, and if we talk about it, that'll take a lot of time. So before that, I will establish the fact that human beings are animals, just like any other animal. We have a biological function, we have a body, we have a skeletal structure, a nervous system, circulation system, and we are confined within our own bodies, never really seeing what goes on inside. So my greatest learning has been by observing nature. I live a significant degree of my life with animals of all kinds, and I learn from them on a day-to-day basis what otherwise would require me years and years of reading through old texts and manuals. I see and I learn. But I wasn't always like this. When I was a child, I wasn't, well, I was scared because I was raised in a human habitation. I was raised in a sheltered environment. I was scared of the world outside. I was scared of the world outside because I did not think it would be very receptive to me. I saw it as a hostile environment that is constantly there to either give you a disease or for an animal to bite you or for something or the other to harm you. When I looked outside, I saw this vast variety of living organisms, biodiversity. I saw plants, vegetations, animals, insects, birds. There's so much diversity in life. And I did not realize that I was connected to this. I always saw myself as someone who's separate from the world outside. I looked at it from through a TV or through some sort of a barrier between me and the world outside. Now that went on for most of my life, and there were some pivotal moments that changed or shaped my perception to the world outside. One of those is a teaching, a sort of philosophical teaching really, called alchemy. It also comes from the Hermetic principles, but there's an axiom in it. And the axiom is, as within, so without, as above, so below. So whatever is within me is also reflected outside in the world, in the animals, in the birds, in the trees, in the soil. Everything that is within me is also outside. I am a biodiverse being, though I am a human being with two hands and two legs, and I stand and I walk. But inside, I am not a singular entity. I am a collection of millions and millions and millions of different particles and organisms that are working in conjunction with each other, synchronously keeping me alive and functioning optimally. So there is something outside and there is something inside. The barrier, it seems, is me, is the self. The idea that the story that I tell myself, this is me. This is what I do. This is the keyword that I identify myself with. This is the profession that I identify myself with. This is what I'm good at. This is what I'm not good at. A story that is constantly looping in the back of my mind. Feedback loop, just telling myself what I can do, what I can't do, what I can do, what I can't do. Maybe I can do this, maybe I can't do this. Reactionary, not really sitting and observing, just a story that's constantly playing in the back of my head. So the biggest obstacle to breaking barriers, I personally feel, is the self itself. That self is what creates a filter between the perception outside and the world that is going on within. So the first thing we must do is put the self aside for a little while and just observe. So I'll tell you one incident and then we'll go forward. When I was 8 or 9, I saw where I used to live, there was a significant population of reptiles where we used to live. So snakes used to come out of the ground very often and they would slither around because they have no other place to go. And I would see the snake over there and I would see old people, in their 40s and 50s, really freak out, start reacting in a very almost unconscious, animalistic way. They cannot just see something and let it be. They have to go poke it, interfere, and maybe kill it, which I saw on a regular basis. So for something to just want to exist and another species for it to come and interfere with its processes and inflict upon it pain and suffering simply for existing did not make sense to me. So this was a barrier. I did not understand why people are reacting this way, but I myself was also not fearless enough to understand, all right, that is just an animal. It has its own needs. You don't mess with it, or if you do mess with it, you know how to handle it, etc., etc. I did not know all of this. So I simply observed and interacted with it from a third person's perspective. As time went on, I grew up and I encountered the same thing again and again and again. I understood that reaction is not really what is needed in that state. What is needed is for you to just stand or stay and observe. So the first thing, whenever you face a challenge, a monster, let's say in mythology, any obstacle in your life, the first thing I do from a very naturalistic perspective, I stand and I observe the situation that I'm in before I take any step, before I react, before there is an illicit, primitive reaction from within me. I decide to put that self aside for a little while and just see what I am going through. What is it that is required of me to do? What are the options that I can take? What are the options that I can't take? Weigh the pros and cons and then execute it. Oftentimes, with enough practice, you don't have to think after a point of time because it will become second nature to you to just observe and take a call to do things accordingly. So I was mentioning the hermetic axiom, as within, so without. Now, human beings are not just a hominid species. As I said, we are a collection of many different organisms that are working in conjunction in our body and keeping us alive. Now that is also prevalent with every other life form in the world. Inherently, there is little to no difference between what you are as a human being and what an animal is. We often assume that we have a godly stature, or we think that human beings are somewhat special, but we are not. We don't have nails to fight for our lives. Our skin is too thin and too delicate. Anything from a small scorpion to a bee sting can really, really hurt us. It's almost like we're not equipped to handle the natural circumstances. Yet it wasn't always so. We have biologically been the same human beings for 20,000, 200,000 years, and we've had the same anatomical bipedal form for that long. So our ancestors, people who came before us, were living with nature like that. They were walking barefoot. They were living in caves and makeshift houses. They didn't have concrete. They were still braving the elements. They were managing the cold. They were managing the heat. They had no ACs. They had no mobility. They had no transportation. Yet the world was going on. It was going on for billions and billions of years, and it will go on even after we are gone. It will go on. It's us who are temporarily over here, who are trying to make sense of where we are living. So, the first barrier is this, the self, that we constantly bring out and lay down the childhood things that we've learned, the education things, the education that we've learned, the watered down stories that we've learned from our parents, from our grandparents, things that we may or may not know if it's true or not, because we assume the stories that have been told to us have to be true, because people have been believing in them in the past as well. Secondly, when I started working, I was pretty sure that I don't want a conventional career. Yet, I still managed to have a conventional career. For 12 years, I worked in the corporates. But that wasn't really what I started working as. What I started working as is when I was 17, I worked in the then CM Sheila Dikshit's house. And over there used to be students like you used to come there on a day in, day out basis. And we used to show them around the property and show them the different varieties of trees, plants, animals that are found over there. What was particularly fascinating about that place was that it had a lot of jamun trees. And on those jamun trees, there were 5,000 fruit bats that were just hanging constantly over there. They used to eat the jamun and they used to hang upside down the entire day. And I used to get a question asked by a lot of people, a lot of students every now and then, why do they hang upside down? Why does a bat hang upside down? For that matter, why does a snake slither? Why does it do that? Does it care? Does a snake care, or a scorpion care, or a spider care, whether you like it or not? Does it care whether you find it appealing, beautiful or not, whether you find it scary or not? It just is. That's what it is. A snake is just like a snake. It can do what a snake can do. A spider can do what a spider can do. That's their anatomy, that's their behavior, that's their physiology, and they live out without apologies to the best of their examples of what they are capable of doing. Similarly, with human beings, we try really hard to emulate others without necessarily understanding our own unique perspective, our own unique identity. All of us are unique, I think, because even from a biochemical perspective, we are all made up of a lot of different hormones, a lot of different chemical compositions, and no two human beings are alike. Every single person is different, every child is different. To understand that we are different, we must understand that difference is the rule of nature. It's uniformity that is not. Human beings create uniformity. We create square buildings, we create square things, we create, everything is in a cubicle in a box. We need a keyword to define everything. We need a keyword to define someone who has ADHD. We need a keyword to define someone who's not able in this way, someone who's not able in that way. So we have a lot of descriptive words that we use, but essentially, it doesn't really matter because everything is different. How many words could you possibly conjure up? Every single human being is different from each other. So when I was a child, as I said, I was very afraid of animals. I was very afraid of these things. But as I grew up, I understood they're not very different from me. And looking at them, observing trees, plants, animals, etc., has taught me more about myself rather than, because I've done religious studies. Once I wanted to become a Christian pastor, so I did my Bible college. Once I did my yoga, I am a Kundalini yoga instructor. So I've done a lot of many different varieties of studies. But what I've essentially learned is from life, interacting with life in real life, not through a phone, not through a virtual medium. I don't have to look at the phone and see, will this sort of snake bite me or not? Or this sort of spider, is it harmful or not? I just have to see and observe it, and it will tell me. The animals will speak to you. Has anyone ever wondered? You sit and you hear a bird is chirping, a crow is cawing, some other bird is making some other vocalization, some animal is making some other vocalization. We think we are the only ones with the sophistication of speech. But do you think all of them are mad? Do they just cha cha, chi chi, poo poo, pee pee the entire day? Are they mad? क्या वो पागल हैं? पूरे दिन बस ची ची पू पू करते रहते हैं? क्या कुछ मतलब है? There is sophistication in their language. They are talking, constantly communicating with each other. All right? We don't understand it because we don't have the capacity to, but they are. A crow will caw once and wait. And within 20 seconds, another crow will caw from a distance and they will communicate. A crow will caw twice, ka, ka. This means that it has found food and it is calling other crows to come and eat the food that it has found. A crow will caw 3 times to display its territory, that this is my area, no other crow should come into this area. So you learn from them. That's sophisticated understanding. See, there's no message, there's nothing. They're just vocalizing and communicating. There's no elaborate language also. They're not constructing sentences. With single monosyllabic kas and pas, they're communicating elaborate descriptions. For example, a crow, which I constantly bring up this as an example, a crow can recognize human beings through their facial features. All right, no other creature can do that. I mean, dolphins maybe. But for example, dogs can only smell individuals from individuals. But crow can see the features of a human being and describe to other crows what this person looked like. So, in theory, you hurt a crow, you throw a stone at a crow. The crow that you hurt will go fly around and communicate in its language without a photo, without a reference to your face. It will communicate to the other crows through just flying aerial acrobatics and cawing. And every other crow within a 2-kilometer radius will come and enact revenge on its behalf on you. So सारे कौवे आके आपको चोंच मारेंगे 2 किलोमीटर के रेडियस के अंदर, क्योंकि एक कौवे को आपने प्रताड़ित, आपने हर्ट करा. So that's the level of communication they're having. That's how sophisticated it is. So my essential aim is that there is a world around you that is constantly going on that we don't tune ourselves to, because we think that ourself, our story is pivotal, is very important. But in the grand timeline of the earth, you are a very, 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 very small incident that is happening, and you'll be gone just like that. These things have existed much before you. Crows, monkey, they've existed before human beings started walking upright. They were there when humans were walking on all fours. So they have been seeing us for a very, 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 very long time. Two things, if there is a takeaway that you can take away from this: spend time in nature. To develop the self, you must first understand that there is no self essentially, and you're just a reflection of the world outside. When you are unhappy, you will encounter more unhappy incidents outside. When you are happy, you will encounter more happy incidents on the outside. So it is just a reflection of what you are within. For that tuning, so that you and the outside world becomes one, it is not two separate entities, but a mirror that is reflecting itself back to itself, you must spend time with the world. And the world is the natural world. It is not the one that human beings made. It is the one that जो अपने आप उत्पन्न होता है. किसी पेड़ को कंस्ट्रक्शन से नहीं बनाना पड़ा, किसी चिड़िया को किसी लैब में नहीं बनाना पड़ा, ये अपने आप चलते हैं. इसमें कोई ह्यूमन इंटरवेंशन की जरूरत नहीं थी. So, spending time in nature is pivotal to learning about the self, because you are nature. You are not separate from it. In nature, everything exists in polarity. There is outside, there is inside, up, down, left, right, man, woman. There are two polar opposites, and that's what makes up nature. But the truth is that there are no two. It's just one. And in different permutations and combinations, it has a different identity. So every man comes from a woman, and every man is internally, hormonally, a collection of two different hormones, testosterone and estrogen. So when there is slight variation in any of those levels, you will develop the characteristics of the other. So you are essentially, everyone is just a mixture of everything. And once we understand that, we understand there is no one thing that we have to control, there is no one thing that we have to pretend. We are everything, and you have to live your life in that way, that you are everything. You experience the world as the world is, without a story in your head about what the world is. And for that, practically, live your life in a practical manner, live your life in the rules of, with the rules of nature. Simple things really. Eat what is seasonally available, learn about nature from the plants and animals in and around your house, and get out of yourself. Don't stay in yourself perpetually. That self will not lead you anywhere except more questions, another rabbit hole, another deep well that you have to go inside and search for the truth. There is no truth. It's all there. You just have to look at it. Without a bias, without some sort of a filter, just look at it and it's all there. Thank you.